If you're a Jack Kirby fan and you don't have some of these in your collection, then what are you doing? Thanks for joining me. My name is Daryl, and I am the host of Read Your Comics, and today is Jack Kirby's birthday, 8/28. And if that sounds familiar, go back to last month. The Fantastic Four First Steps movie came out, and the first thing you see on the screen is Earth 828, a nod to the creator's birthday. So I figured I would do a quick video looking through the Jack Kirby Collector number 9 from 1996, the special Fantastic Four theme issue. Now, I've done a couple videos of Jack Kirby Collectors. If you don't have any of these, I highly recommend getting some. I mean, they're just a magazine, so it really doesn't matter what you get as long as you just get your hands on some. Now, this one is the standard magazine format. Later on, it would go to like a big, huge tabloid size. Those are the best because you get a lot of photostat, original art stuff, and it's blown up real big. But even these magazine formats are great. And when they were coming out, a lot of this stuff had never been like seen before. So can you go on the internet and see a lot of this original art, these sketches and stuff now? Probably so, but I love these magazines, and you'll get some repeat stuff because they'll reuse similar art over and over again, but they often do something a little fresh with it. As I said, this is the Fantastic Four themed issue. Pin-up image here. Back cover is Jack's original illustration for the Silver Surfer graphic novel that came out by Fireside Books. This would get recreated as a painting for publication, but it was, as you can see, if you're familiar with that book, I'll throw it up right here. As you can see, it was 100% based off of this image. And I don't recall if on the inside of I said it was recolored or if Jack colored that. Let's see. So the inside cover usually gives you a little bit more information about what's going on with the covers. It doesn't say that it was recolored by anybody. Jack may have colored that himself. I'm not 100% sure. Sometimes they do those back covers and you don't get a lot out of it. But as I was saying, they do reuse art. Like, for instance, this sketch of the Thing is a cover for a later issue. They would use the photostat and have somebody else ink it. I believe they had a Joe Sennett ink this particular image for the cover and recolor it and everything. So you get a lot of fun stuff like that in these magazines. So I'm just going to kind of flip through. I've not read this cover to cover. You know, I've skimmed over parts here and there and I'll discuss it, but mostly I'm just going to do a quick flip through to kind of look at some of this artwork. Oftentimes the image here doesn't really accompany whatever's happening in the words. Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. They like to just stick cool sketches like this. Dr. Doom here says it was a marker sketch on an 18 by 24 board. That's pretty impressive. This Fantastic Four house ad, which I've seen in old comics, of course. It says it first appeared in Incredible Hulk number 1 and is this original. And this original art recently sold at auction in 1995 and is one of the earliest remaining pieces of FF art, which got me to wondering, does the original art for FF number 1 still exist? Now, I know that the original art for Hulk number 1 got cut up and repurposed into Marvel house ads, so it does not exist in its original format. I don't even know if that house ad still exists, but I've never really heard of what happened to FF1, and I tried to look it up. I ran across an interesting article by Tom Brevoort. He was analyzing what Marvel had as the original photostat that they still have in their archives, and he kind of broke down some of the intricacies of what changed between the copy that they have and the original and the actual publication. It was an interesting blog article, but at the same time it didn't say what happened to the original art. You get a lot of these little sketches that Jack did to people. Jack apparently did a lot of these little sketches for fanzines. All you had to do was reach out to him and he would doodle up a little thing for you to do. This definitely feels like an early thing. It says it's from 1962, so yeah, this would have been within the first year. And this was an interesting article that was actually written for a fanzine in 1967, I think they said, and it's interesting to read this. I just kind of skimmed it, but it's interesting because it's of the time. It's a reaction to what was going on with Fantastic Four and Kirby's work in particular as it was happening. Most of the stuff we read about or see videos made of or what have you today is all in the rear view. And much of it, like myself, I wasn't alive for any of that stuff. So I am relaying information that I have gleaned from like magazines such as this or other videos I've watched and so forth, stories I've heard other creators say in different interviews. But it's interesting to read an article like this when it's, republished from that time period. It's an unpublished cover of FF64. Compare that to how it actually came out. Nice spotlight on the Inhumans and the development of the concept behind them. There's a drawing from Marvel Mania here. These are some storyboards for the late 70s FF cartoon that Lockjaw appeared on by Kirby. Nice little surfer right here. And of course, we have to have something about the Galactus trilogy going on here, right? I mean, this is the FF themed issue. You can't gloss over the Galactus trilogy or just Galactus in general. This is from FF75, this huge splash page of Galactus. Really, as awesome as those first three issues are, these issues in the 70s is when Kirby really like just cranked up Galactus to 11. Look at all that intricate machinery in the background too. And it's photostat black and white before being inked. The photostats are nice. I mean, they're not as nice as getting like a photograph of original pencils. And this magazine came out in the 90s. It's on like not a newsprint, but a matte paper, printed probably, fairly conservatively. Because even in the 90s, it's not like this was going to have a super high print run or anything. But we get a lot of photostats and not so much original penciled pages in these early Jack Kirby collectors. A lot of commissioned surfer pieces in a lot of these Jack Kirby collectors that I have. So this one says it's from the mid 80s commissioned drawing of the Silver Surfer. Here's an uninked photostat from issue 76. I did a video on that storyline the week of the movie. Go check that out. Another surfer from 1975. So this would have been right around the time he was returning to Marvel. And you can tell this is something he probably did fairly quick. You can look at the hands and stuff and some of the shapes to tell this is a quick Kirby drawing, not something that he was, spending time developing like a page layout for. Unpublished page of Black Panther says it was sold to a fan at the 1976 Baycon. I'm assuming that's for the Black Panther series that Kirby did. Some unused panels. Look at the open space for the captions. An unused cover. This is something that you would probably find, especially with, the rise of Black Panther's popularity post the MCU. You see a lot of things collecting the history of the Black Panther and the development, where he had that mask that, showed his mouth. He had trunks that were a different shade, so they stood out more. I think it was a wise decision to cover his mask. I think Black Panther's mask has kind of become more iconic. Whereas if you'd gone with that, he would have looked a lot like Batman or even what's that character from DC called? The Cat. Here's an unused cover for FF20, and it says and the caption here says that this is all Stan's handwriting, but this isn't how the cover ended up coming out in the end. So they didn't even have the 4 put on, or it came off at some point. This Joe Sennett interview is really good. I did read most of it. It spends a good chunk talking about his early life before getting into the Kirby collaboration. One of the most interesting aspects of Joe Sennett and this is well known, I'm not dropping any kind of hidden knowledge from this, but the two never really met, or they did meet once in 1975, years after their collaboration on Fantastic Four, and they only talked on the phone a couple of times. Sennett says in here a lot that Jack never gave him specific notes about things not to do, but would only put a note about something specific that he wanted done every now and then. But for the most part, he says Jack was very gracious and just, turned in the pencils with his own margin notes for story and stuff mostly. And whatever Sennett did, or any inker that worked on him, that's just how he did it. This is a Joe Sennett original piece he drew and inked. And one of the beauty of this stuff is you do get Jack's margin notes about the things he was trying to relay. This is a page of FF86, and it says that John Romita did these figures right here. I don't know if Kirby just did this and was expecting word balloons all the way down it, and they stuck in Reed and Sue. An inked page from FF89. Now, this is a pinup. I did this issue of Marvel 2-in-1 number 50, and this was a pinup in the back that Joe Sennett had done. And in the interview, Sennett does say that he draws a more intricate thing than Jack did. He felt like Jack's thing was, he kept it kind of simple, and that he himself, when he draws the thing and working with later inkers, would add a little bit more to him. I thought that was kind of interesting. There was also a good bit in this interview where he touches a little bit on other inkers that worked on Kirby. Obviously, he says Joe Simon being one of the best inkers in his opinion. He felt like Wally Wood put too much Wally Wood on top of Kirby, and he compliments Coletta for being fast. Let's just say that. Some Kirby art from a 1978 Marvel calendar. And then this is always a fascinating one to me. This is from Fantastic Four number 108. Apparently, Jack had turned in a 102 and a 103. A 102 was the last full issue that Jack did before he left to go to DC and start the New Gods. I guess 102, his original 102, they felt was not good. And so when the story ran, they just published what he had for 103 as 102. Some things carried over into into what was published as 103. But later, around issue 108, they took what Jack had and chopped it up, threw in some John Buscema filler stuff to round it out. And the Kirby Collector decided to try to reconstruct what Kirby had originally intended. Now, I think they did this twice. I feel like I have another Jack Kirby Collector, maybe one of the tabloid size ones, where they've figured out what was in most of these panels and they dialogue it. So this is almost like a rough draft of what the Jack Kirby Collector was trying to do with this 108 recreation. I want to say that the one in the tabloid too, they had it, full size. And that's something that now, the way Marvel lets their stuff get licensed, like by Abrams and stuff, that would be a neat project to see if the Jack Kirby Collector could publish an issue like that. Kind of like they do the graphite editions of Captain Victory and stuff. And that's pretty much it for this one. Here's your pencils of the what's on the cover, which I guess, let me see real quick before I jump off. Well, it doesn't say who colored it. I was thinking it, but Joe Sennett inked this from the stat we have back here. Look at those scribble marks on the rock. I just love seeing that stuff. Doesn't say who colored it though. But anyway, that's all I got. Be sure to grab some of these. Go to the TwoMorrows publication website. You can order back issues there. You can find them on eBay. If you're lucky, you can find them in a comic shop or at a con. I never have much luck finding them in the wild, unfortunately. I feel like it's something that most people that collect these, that bought them when they came out, they just kind of sit on them and they don't sell them off as a collection or anything. And comic shops don't really order them to keep on hand. So definitely be on the lookout for Jack Kirby Collectors if you were a fan. If not, then you're missing out. Until next time.
Read your comics.